Did you know using your browser in incognito mode doesn't actually protect your privacy? Take back your privacy with IPVanish VPN. Just one tap and all your data, passwords, communications, browsing history, and more will be instantly protected. IPVanish makes you virtually invisible online. Use IPVanish on all your devices, anytime you go online at home and especially on public Wi-Fi. Get IPVanish now for 70% off a yearly plan with this exclusive offer at ipvanish.com/audio.
This is LBC.
But we start tonight, of course, with the breaking news story in the last few minutes that one of the most influential and well-known amongst American supporters of Donald Trump has tonight been fatally shot at an event in Utah. Charlie Kirk, if you're not familiar with him, has become a very powerful and influential activist on the right of American politics. He is the executive director of Turning Point USA, and he is an inspiration and a figurehead for many, many right-wing Americans who are supportive of Donald Trump. This evening, he was speaking at an event in Utah, at the Utah Valley University in Orem in that state, when he was shot in the neck. It was later announced that he was in a critical condition in hospital, and about 15 minutes or so ago, very sadly indeed, Donald Trump himself took to his Truth social media account to post confirming that Charlie Kirk had since died. Donald Trump writing the following: "The great and even legendary Charlie Kirk is dead. No one understood or had the heart of the youth in the United States of America better than Charlie. He was loved and admired by all, especially me, and now he is no longer with us. Melania and my sympathies go out to his beautiful wife, Erica, and family. Charlie, we love you." Now, you don't have to agree with Donald Trump, you don't have to agree with Charlie Kirk to know that this is yet another very, very dark, very, very worrying act of political violence in the United States. This comes, what is it, only after a year or so after that assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life. US politics is becoming more and more violent and more toxic. And there are fears, of course, aren't there, that our country is heading in the same direction. I want your thoughts this evening. I want your reaction to this appalling act of violence, this appalling assassination of a very prominent political figure in the United States. You can call me on 0345 6060 973. You can WhatsApp the same number. You can text 84850 or say, Alexa, send a comment to LBC. We will, of course, bring you all the very latest throughout the programme, throughout the night here on LBC, on what is a fast-moving, breaking, developing news story. But what all we know so far is that Charlie Kirk, very sadly, having been taken to hospital, was pronounced dead in Utah. Let's get a little bit more with Simon Marks, LBC's Washington correspondent. I mean, Simon, for people in this country who aren't familiar with Charlie Kirk, because he's obviously a far, far, far bigger figure in the United States than he was here, who is he and just how influential was he?
Well, he's being widely described here tonight, Ben, as one of the 5 most prominent figures in Donald Trump's Make America Great Again movement. And I think that's a true reflection of the role that he played in propelling Donald Trump on his political journey, because Charlie Kirk was just 31 when he died today. And over the course of the last 10 years or so, he had created this movement, Turning Point USA, by really engaging, as he was doing today at Utah Valley University, with young Americans on university campuses all over the country, and particularly those in Republican-leaning states. And when we all ask ourselves, how on earth has Donald Trump done it? How has he put together this movement that has delivered him the keys to the Oval Office now not once but twice? The answer in large measure is due to the efforts of Charlie Kirk, because it was Mr. Kirk who spread Donald Trump's populist right-wing ideology and the almost cult-like support that we have seen throughout the Make America Great Again movement for President Trump among young Americans. Hundreds of thousands of them recruited to the cause. And if you look at the pictures today from Utah Valley University, just in the minutes leading up to Charlie Kirk's assassination, he was there throwing hats into the crowd. He was surrounded by young volunteers in the sunshine. The event had a carnival-like atmosphere as he began this Prove Me Wrong tour that he was going to take to multiple university campuses across the country, including returning to Utah at the end of the month. He was due to be speaking at Utah State University. There, more than 6,800 people had signed a petition objecting to his presence on that particular campus. But he was, among his supporters and followers, wildly popular. And the irony of all of this today, as he sat there beginning what was supposed to be a series of conversations in the public square, challenging people to challenge him and prove me wrong, as he put it on this tour, was underscored by the fact that the final question that he was able to take before he was shot was a question about mass gun violence in the United States. And it was as he was preparing to answer that question that a single shot rang out, and we could see very clearly, unfortunately, in the social media videos that spread of the shooting, that his injuries were so grave that even at the scene, I think it was pretty apparent that it was going to be very, very difficult for him to survive. The other big question, of course, tonight is who did it, because a suspect was taken into custody. Police have now concluded that he was not responsible for the shooting. So a massive investigation getting underway to discover who was responsible. And there is presumably a gunman or a gunwoman tonight on the loose.
And a massive manhunt presumably will be launched very, very quickly indeed, Simon, because there was footage, there were photos shared very widely on social media of a man, of a sort of man in his elder years by the look of it, who, according to the captions and so on, was the shooter. And as you say, the authorities have decided that actually it was a mistaken identity, and the person who did commit this awful crime is right now at large.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair to the police at the scene, the man claimed to have shot Charlie Kirk. Right. So he was immediately dragged away. But you can actually hear members of the crowd furious, shouting at this man, "How dare you, how dare you?" And someone then says, "Is this the shooter?" And the police officer taking him away says, "Well, he says he is, but we don't know." And they've now apparently concluded that he isn't.
And Simon, I don't want to get too far ahead, because a man has lost his life, children have lost their father, a wife has lost her husband. But in terms of the sort of the immediate consequences and the fallout from this, how big a concern will there be in the States tonight that this act of political violence in such a tinderbox nation, such a divided country right now, might spark, or has the potential at least, to spark much wider violence on the streets of America?
I think enormous concern here tonight. I think that's one of the reasons, Ben, why we saw Donald Trump making the announcement that Charlie Kirk had died. I think it was important to the president to be making that announcement, not just in his role as president of the United States, but also as head of state here, not just the political leader, but the head of state here, making this announcement, and also in his role as the undisputed head of the Make America Great Again movement. And there will, I think, be tremendous concern here, and we've seen many Democrats expressing absolute outrage at this act of political violence over the last few hours. Given the febrile times in which we live, given the amount of political violence we have already seen in this country, including those assassination attempts against Donald Trump on the campaign trail last year, I think there's going to be real concern about the hours and days ahead. The president is clearly going to want to play a prominent role, as will every single figure in his government. I mean, they all knew Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk was a regular visitor to the White House, a voice in all of their ears. They will all want to play a prominent role at the funeral, whenever and wherever that takes place. I think it's a seismic moment in the political history of the United States, as it would be under any circumstances, but also not least because it comes at a time of such political polarization here. This is a dangerous atmosphere, as Mr. Kirk tragically found out today. A man who, by the way, had championed gun rights in America and who had previously articulated the view that victims of gun violence, people who died in shooting incidents, he had described that as worth the sacrifice in order to protect the Second Amendment, which of course gives the right of Americans to bear arms. So, I mean, in so many ways, this is a story that touches Americans, whether they are of the left or of the right, and has the potential, I think, to set off unpredictable consequences as we move forward now.
Would you expect to see, Simon, some sort of statement from Donald Trump quite soon? Do you think there will be a sort of, I mean, a press conference wouldn't be the appropriate, but a sort of address to the nation, I guess, partly because of the fears you're talking about, but they will want to get ahead of this. They will want to get on top of this because of the potential ramifications of this shooting.
Yeah, I think that's right. It would not surprise me at all if we see some sort of televised address. I'm just checking to see. There's been no announcement so far from the White House of any change in the president's schedule. He is due to be hosting a dinner tonight in the Rose Garden of the White House, and certainly the last one was attended by the vast majority of members of his cabinet and senior figures within his administration just a few days ago. So that may be the forum at which he speaks publicly for the first time about the death of Charlie Kirk. I mean, this is a body blow to the Make America Great Again movement. And this has come as a terrible shock to people in Donald Trump's inner circle, and also to people on the right in the UK. Turning Point USA has a UK branch. Certainly Nigel Farage will have been very familiar with Mr. Kirk. Charlie Kirk was in the UK back in May. He spoke at the Oxford Union. He's been one of those voices here in the United States speaking out about what he has claimed are the rollback of free speech protections in the UK, in the United Kingdom. He said just 3 months ago, you guys birthed free speech to the world, but now you're becoming a totalitarian country. So certainly he is known to people on both sides of the Atlantic. And I suspect that Donald Trump is absolutely going to want to pay public tribute to him here, and then I think really lead the nation in mourning. No question at all that the president will play a prominent role at Charlie Kirk's funeral, and I wonder whether it's possible, given his popularity among President Trump's Republican faithful and lawmakers up on Capitol Hill, whether it's possible there is some kind of lying in state that takes place here in Washington or perhaps elsewhere. It's a very big, dramatic, troubling, and I think quite potentially dangerous moment, this, for the United States.
Simon, thank you very much for now. I'm sure we'll check back in with you a little later. Simon Marks, LBC's Washington correspondent.